She's a funny old broad. She keeps you guessing.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whenever you happen to be watching this. You know, this is one thing that I like about the new media that we have now, the YouTubes, the Rumbles, the Substacks, that sort of thing, because and the new technology, because I am in a room in my home where I've set up a small studio. I can record at any time. I don't have to do it live so that people can comment as I go. That is a lot of work with not a lot of return for my purposes. Now, I know there's some people that do that and they do it well because they've got something going on, they've got a built-in audience already, you know, that sort of thing. For me to get an audience, a very specific audience, I can't do that. My interests, my ability to address them, my willingness to address them, and all kinds of other things have me with a broad array of topics, many of which are not connected to the other. So, for instance, let's take like Hugh Hewitt or Rob Carson or who are these other people? There's all these other people that are doing the political stuff, the political side of things. Yes, I address some political things occasionally, but you know, I'm also wanting to do an interview of the mule trains in North Carolina that saved a lot of people. That has nothing to do with politics. That's just mules. You know, hybrid donkey horse. So my audiences are in little pockets everywhere. I have no cohesive whole. And that's okay with me. I don't care. It can't change. I would go nuts if I had to address the same problems, or the same subjects, I should say, over and over and over again. I would go nuts because I've got so many things I'm interested in. And y'all have no clue what all I do when the camera isn't on. Right now I'm working on another novel, which will be the second in a Benjamin Turner novel series. The first one was Whitfield, Nebraska, which is on Amazon. You really should read it because you'll learn a lot about Ben and you'll see how he will have changed after his marriage to V in the second novel that I'm working on. And it's a representation of real people involved in real situations, even though I totally made it all up. Because that's what novels do. We make things up. So I often record things or write things and schedule them in Substack well ahead, and I kind of overlap them like a week here, a week there, that sort of thing. So I'm not totally MIA on these various platforms. But then again, I don't need to have something every single day. But for the last 2 weeks, I have been overloaded with stuff that, you know, it's life. You gotta take care of things. And plus the novel I'm working on, as yet unnamed. I've got so many good titles that I just don't know which one to do, and it may be that I'll finally figure it out once I finish it. But Benjamin Turner is a retired MP who set up his own private investigation firm, and he is, in the first book, Whitfield, Nebraska, he was hired to find the killer of a girl from 30 years before, and her body had never been found. Everybody knew who did it, but there was absolutely no proof. Back then, they didn't have the cameras everywhere like they do now. which that's a good idea to work into this new one. Anyway, he's caught. I'm not even going to tell you how that happens and how he gets real true justice. But in this one, it's two boys. They're grown men now, but they have an Americana bluegrass band that's called Mama's Boys, and they have turned out to be quite the popular thing, and they tour a lot. But their mother disappeared when the oldest one was 15 and the youngest one was 12. Well, where'd she go? What happened? Well, now they're in their late 30s and they want to hire somebody to try to find their mother because their father said that she had taken off to go find the Footlights in New York, and they never believed that. Their mother was not the one that wanted to be on stage at all. So they asked around in Nashville, where they were based out of at this point now. Anybody know a good private investigator who knows what they're doing and can help us find Mama? So my main character, Ben Turner, is recommended to them. So he starts looking for her. You know, the first thing you do when you go looking for looking for someone is you find out, well, are they still alive? And you would prove that by seeing if they have any W-2s, if they filed taxes, with the IRS, if they've kept the same name and just moved somewhere, and what's their, do they have a digital footprint? Do they have a financial footprint? Is there anybody that knows anything? So there's a lot of upfront work that has to be done, and he does it. Then he realizes that this woman must be dead. She must be. But how to find her? Who killed her? And thus a deeper investigation goes that ends up covering a goodly portion of the United States as he has his friend Don Grace, who is a homicide detective in Hartwell, Georgia. All made up, y'all. All made up. Now, Hartwell, Georgia is a real place, but if you're from Hartwell, don't come complaining to me about this character, because it's just fiction. But he calls his old buddy, they were in peace together, and gets him to go into some databases that law enforcement have access to and others don't, and do some initial research for him, and he does. And that's all I'm going to say at this point, because I've got all of that written, and then I thought, but where's it going? How are we going to catch the killer of the boys, which their band's name is Mama's Boys? And do I want to have Ben do any kind of face-to-face with him? And if he does, on what level? Will he go in as himself, as the private investigator? Will he pretend to be somebody else? Will he play mind games? I don't know. So my brain has been stewing on this for about 3 months as to how to do that. And so what I've been doing is, and this is again why I like the new media landscape, I've been going to YouTube. YouTube is loaded with police interrogations that have now been released and can be shown. These are real investigations, real interrogations, real crimes, some of just people who've murdered somebody, just murdered them. One person lost their head, whatever. Or serial killers, male and female, of all kinds of different types, all kinds of different places in different countries. And if you watch any of those, here's what you'll find out. People are people. I don't care where they are or where they're from. People are people. Serial killers, they're all very simple. They want what they want. Now, they may not know why they want it, and that's for a psychiatrist to figure out, but it has nothing to do with the outcome that they are producing, which is dead people. And if it was just they were dead only, that, you can kill somebody quick or you can kill somebody slow. Serial killers, they vary even in that. But anyway, so I'm able to watch these investigators, and I'm able to see some of the techniques that they use. Now, how will my character, who has a background as an MP and an investigator, excuse me, of crimes committed by those in the armed forces, how will he relate to or react with or go after the bad guy in this case, whose name, by the way, is James Lemon Boyd, who has, after his sons left home at 19 and 16 to travel with some country bands that came through where they lived, and they took them under their wings, and next thing you know, they got a good following and they're making some money. But how's he going to do all of this? So this, excuse me, that's Ben. Now, James Lemon Boyd turned into a, I'm going to pause this for just 1 second while I clear my throat. Let's hope it's cleared up. James Lemon Boyd has turned into a highly popular and quite profitable revival style preacher, with the tent out in the field and all that sort of thing. And the boys are now, 20 years have passed since they left home. So this gives my main character, Ben, opportunity to put together some information in the databases of missing women whose bodies have never been found, or Jane Doe's whose bodies have been found, but nobody knows who they are, and the route of James Lemon Boyd's revival thing. So that's turning into something quite interesting, and it has just been coming together. I mean, I'm like there with Ben Turner. I'm the investigator, which of course I have to be. I can't be James Lemon Boyd. He's a very simple character. Everybody's like, oh, bad guys are more interesting than the good guys. No, I don't think so. Bad guys do what they do because they want to. They're selfish. They don't care who they hurt to get what they want. I don't care if they love their mama or hated her or what. Bad guys are at heart very selfish. To me, that's not a complicated, conflicted character. I don't care what any of the TV shows and the movies and that sort of thing come across as. If they don't stop the bad ways, then how conflicted are they really? I mean, really. Whereas an investigator who hates the bad things that are being done and wants to catch the guy or the gal, knows that they're this way, knows it, but has to be able to find the legal means by which they can prove it in court. What if they are just like, this guy's never going to stop. He's never going to stop. He's getting away with all this stuff all over the place. What can I do? You know what? Maybe I ought to kill him. Now, to me, that's conflicted. Thank goodness most investigators, 99.9%, don't kill the bad guy unless they're forced to, but that's a whole nother subject. But that's the kind of thing I've been working on, so it has really been taking up a lot of my brain power And it's been raining so much here, I haven't been able to get out in the yard and work because the mold in the ground is being stirred up and is causing me major issues with hives. So I've got a double whammy. My brain is eaten up with all this stuff and this energy, and I have nowhere to put that energy. So it's kind of interesting and fun. You may or may not have the same problem, a challenge, or opportunity, which, by the way, is the name of this episode: Problem, Challenge, and Opportunity. A friend of mine sent me a list that he made from a book he read. I want to say, I know he told me the name of the book, but I have totally forgotten it. And he put it in a document that he sent me, some main points of it. It says, the opportunity in every problem, a new way of looking at and responding to the countless decisions one must make every day in all areas of one's life. Now, I first ran into, this was 25 years ago, one of my customers. I went into him, I said, well, we've got a problem. He goes, it's not a problem. I said, well, what is it then? He said, it's a challenge. And until that point in time, I had never heard anybody say that a problem is a challenge. And this particular author of this book also brought out that what is a problem to one person is a challenge to another, and to another subset is an opportunity. You see how that works? You've got a problem. It is definitely a problem. But instead of thinking of it as a, let me see, how did she put it? On number 5, you believe that something is out of your control and it's stopping you. So if you think a problem is something that is out of your control and it's stopping you from moving forward, then you've already lost the game. Then let me think. She's got 10 points here that she made. Oh, now this is quite interesting. And this is where coming into looking at a problem as a challenge, it is where what you think is the problem, you're actually misinterpreting what the problem really is. And that's why the question, if you ask the question, why? Yes, but why is that a problem? And you get somebody to explain why it is a problem. Now they start thinking about it in a different way. And then they realize, oh, this is not the problem. The problem is actually something deeper that precedes that. But if they hadn't have been asked why, what makes it a problem, unsolvable? And you just keep asking these little questions like that. The next thing you know, you find out what the real problem is. So when we misinterpret what a problem really is, then and we've already tried to solve that problem, and it's not being solved. Then what we have done is, hang on a second. You try solving a problem that is not really the problem, and you believe you must give up prematurely because nothing's working, then you can't move forward. You can't repeat the same thing over and over and over once you know that something's not working. Because if you do, you know what they say. So then if you look at whatever problem is there as a challenge, to define it, to explain it to someone who's never encountered it before, especially. Next thing you know, you're getting insight into what the real problem is. Now you look at the solutions that you've come up with, and when you realize that none of these solutions are going to work on that problem that has now become a challenge for you to solve, now you've got an opportunity to come up with something else. Your vision has expanded. It's expanded. Okay? Now you've not, before you put yourself in a box and the lid was closed, and it didn't matter which way you turned and you pushed and shoved, the problem still existed. The challenge was not being met. But then when you say, what is the opportunity here? Then you can come up with a new way. Because maybe it really is a problem. And maybe it really is a challenge. But you still are using the old ways. It doesn't work. Now, there are some people who believe that in a situation, the problem is themselves. There must be something wrong with themselves. Now, that is a whole psychological bowl of spaghetti I don't want to get into. But it can hold a person back. If they think that the problem is them, then they need to look at themselves very closely to confirm if that's an accurate statement or not. And there's ways of doing that. There's books written on the subject and all that. But sometimes people are lazy. They don't want to do it. They don't want to put the work in. Sometimes it's their ego that their ego can't take the beating that they're going to have to give themselves. You know, the emotional, psychological beating that they have to give themselves to make themselves realize that they don't know it all and that it's okay not to know it all. So if they're lazy, they're never gonna ever find an opportunity. They're never going to be able to meet a challenge, and they will continue to have the same problems. Now, another thing that keeps us from turning something into a challenge and then into an opportunity is the number 4 on the list. It says, you believe the solution must materialize the way you want it to. Again, that's a very limited way of thinking. Is limited. If you're new to this podcast and you've not listened to much of my stuff, you really should go back and listen to it, because there's a theme that I always bring up. I don't always bring it up in every podcast, but I go, I am the most brilliant woman in the world. But that doesn't mean I know everything. See, people think if you're the most brilliant, let's take Elon Musk, for instance. Genius. Doing some fantastic things. He's the Edison of our day, if you will, in so many different things. His technology that he's able to deploy, like he just deployed the Starlink over Iran because Iran had shut down their internet. And he said, no. So way up in space there, he puts the Starlink stuff, or wherever he puts them in the high upper atmosphere, centers them over Iran. Y'all get the word out. Communicate with each other. Do what you got to do. Even this man, who, when confronted with a problem, sees a challenge and turns it into an opportunity, doesn't know everything. He's just gone through, he's probably still going through it. I have identified it as an episode of PTSD that's run amok, because he had some massive negative publicity from people who want to destroy him. They didn't care what they lied about. They didn't care what they called. They tried to ruin his businesses, attacked his Tesla dealerships. tried to hack into Twitter. That's a I mean X. That is a 24-hour, 24/7, 365 problem that they deal with at X, as does Facebook and Google and Amazon, all these big technology companies or companies that rely on technology at scale experience this every waking second of every day. Somebody trying to destroy them and bring them down. But you see, Elon grew up in a really bad situation in South Africa, and and he's now he may have tried to hide and pretend that that stuff didn't affect him because his life is even what problems he had to do with rolling out new technology. This wasn't a problem so much as it was a fun challenge and an opportunity to make money. He's on the cutting edge. He's on the cusp. He's riding that wave. He's on that beam of light ahead of everybody else. And he was the golden boy. Elon, Elon, Elon. We love Elon. Especially the Democrats, the lefts, the Marxists, and all that stuff. We love Elon. We love Elon. And he was the golden boy. Suddenly, he's not the golden boy anymore to them, and all this massive amount of praise came down and was replaced with absolute anger and vileness and attacks of all kinds. He has this lesson to learn, and his ego finally cracked, and all this stuff that he had from growing up in South Africa, this PTSD that he's held at bay, finally broke loose to the point that he's making mean tweets about a man that he has liked and admired, Donald Trump. Donald's like, geez, where in the hell is this coming from? And I wrote about it. If you look on the Constrained View, you'll see, I think it's entitled, Elon Has PTSD. Yeah. And I lay out the case for that. Yet, here we have people on radio, TV, on both sides of the coin, mind you, going, oh, look, Elon is turning his back on blah, blah, blah. Look at him, making fun of him. And I said, look, no. He's suffering PTSD right now. You don't attack somebody with PTSD. You help them see why they're reacting that way. I hope somebody gave that article to Elon, because I don't think anybody had mentioned anything about it to him, because he was self-sufficient, don't you know? He had the answers to all kinds of things. He was a logical thinker, and yet his emotions is what he had to learn to deal with. So he cannot solve all problems, especially when he doesn't know what the problem is. So we're the same way. We can't solve all of our problems. And if we believe that we must solve them, then here's what will happen. Okay, I am going to talk about myself here. When my kids were young, I used to do substitute teaching in school so I could have the same kind of schedule as they did. And if they were sick, I could let somebody know my kids are sick. They understood. They would call another substitute. And I was helping with special needs children in this one school quite a bit. And I don't know. There was one teacher who was going to be out for several days, and so I was in this one classroom for several days, which meant I ended up doing more than I would normally do to take over the duties. The helper of the teacher, was primary in the room because she was the employee, and I was there to back her up. And one day, she walks in the room, and I don't know what she saw, but she must have seen me gobsmacked with a problem. And she said, "What's wrong, Angela?" And I said, "I don't know. I can't figure out whatever this thing was." It's been so many years ago, I've forgotten. And she says, "Well, why didn't you ask me to help?" I was in my 30s, okay? My late 30s, and had never heard anybody say, "Well, why didn't you ask me for help?" Nobody had ever said that to me, ever. I did not know it was a thing. I did not know that other people asked other people for help. I thought they all were doing it themselves. And that when there was, I think I'm surrounded by all these geniuses because they're solving all this stuff and they're doing all this stuff. No clue. Let me say that again. I had no clue that I could ask for help. I was double gobsmacked right then. I had always had to solve all the problems myself and help others. Now, I knew that it was my job to help others, and I had assumed that if anybody thought I needed help, they would jump in. Nobody ever did because I looked like I could handle it all. And in a way, I believed that I could. I mean, as a kid, when you're solving adult problems and adults are coming to you for advice and you're stopping adults from killing each other, you start to think that you're pretty special. And I did. As an adult, in my about when I was 42, I had to do some talking with a professional to delve through this labyrinth of weird thinking that I had, and come to find out that because I was, as a child and up into my until I got married, was surrounded by adults who always looked to me to solve their problem, and I did it. That just shows you how dumb those adults were. That shows you how immature they were. And I got to thinking, well, that's pretty hot stuff. And it was a big blow to my ego at first to find out that I didn't have all the answers. And then it was a relief that I didn't have to have all the answers. And then when that woman had said to me a few years earlier, "Angela, why didn't you ask for help? I would have helped you." When I realized that I could ask for help, I didn't know how to do it. How does one ask for help? I don't know. It took me a while to figure that out. And then I had to realize that when you ask for help, you need to let the other person speak. Don't poo-poo their advice out of hand, because obviously they're telling you something you've never heard if you're going, eh. I had to do all of that. And I came to realize that while the responsibility for my own life is on me, and it's on me. What is that scripture? Something about we help each other with our burdens, but we must carry our own load. Separating out what is a burden in order to ask help for it is different from me carrying my own load of working on my personality, of applying things. A burden, I went and got help for. Once I understood the thought process that my mind was trained in and eager to be trained in it because I had life and death situations as a child that I was having to manage. And my brain and personality being what they are, I was able to do it. But at what expense? At the expense of me never, ever allowing anybody to help me. At the expense of, because I'm not allowing them to help me when it was offered, because I didn't recognize an offer when I saw it, I caused more trouble for myself. And yet here I am. Oh gosh, how old am I now? 67. And I'm still learning how to accept help and be gracious about it. And I'm still learning and practicing, I should say, the art of telling myself that I don't have all the answers. So we've got the problem, the challenge, and the opportunity. And those can come up in all kinds of different ways. Now, another one on this list was number 7. It says you believe the problem should be solved. Now, this was a big one. This was a big one for me. I've got friends now who are like, well, ask Angela, she knows. and often I do. Because I can't help it. I read a lot and research a lot, and I am the most brilliant woman in the world. But I'm going to reread this sentence, and it will tell you how I was approaching interactions with literally everybody. You believe the problem should be solved by you. Okay? I believe the problem should be solved by me. Because obviously, of all the people standing around here, and the one with the big problem, nobody knows what to do, and it must be solved. But you know what? There's some problems that don't need solving. Why? Because if I, in my big-headed egoness, am running around telling people, identifying somebody that has a problem, I come up to them and I say, I can solve it for you. However it is I say that. And they go, okay. Then you know what I have just done? I have just taken away from them an opportunity for them to meet a challenge and find an opportunity. How selfish of me. So you know what I find interesting now? And I still have that, oh my God, I should help them. All that still comes up. I can be anywhere. Oh my God. Here's somebody, I know I can do something right now to help them. Boom, and the problem is solved. All of that still comes up in me. But now when it does, I tamp it down and I go, yes, but should it be me that solves it? Should it be me that provides the solution? Now, if it's life or death, there's no question. But you know, there's a lot of things I was jumping in on that did not matter, or it did not fit, because I was seeing that, where was that? I misinterpreted what the problem really is. That's number 3. And 4, I believe the solution must materialize the way I wanted it to. And I believe the problem really should be solved. And I knew the problem wasn't me. And I'm definitely not lazy, so, they must be lazy for just standing there. But you know what? How dare I take away a person's opportunity to grow? That is just not nice. It's not nice. It's not kind. It definitely does not help them. You know, the old give a man a fish, teach him to fish um, thing. If you haven't heard it, I will say it in its entirety. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day or one meal, depending how big the fish is. But teach him to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And so I wasn't even teaching people how to fish, the metaphorical how to fish. I was just fishing for them and giving them the fish. And here, see how brilliant I am? That's just, Now, uh, being on the spectrum myself, and definitely I'm a sociopath, and yet I'm a really kind, nice sociopath. I know that is it's not a redundant statement, it's a conundrum. It's dichotomous. I know. Welcome to my world. But so anyway, my friend gave 4 more points about resource masterminding. Find what the real problem is, which I think we kind of sort of have discussed. Discover what resources there are or could be available, which means you ask for help, you ask for suggestions. Find the best resource on the list for the specified problem, and combine those resources to generate the energy needed to create, or a synergy to create a masterful opportunity. So problem, challenge, and opportunity. This is a great list, and it has really generated, it's generated a podcast that went where I didn't expect it to go. I had looked at the list. I said, oh, these are really good. We'll just bump through them, boom, boom, boom. And then I started seeing how they really described some bad habits that worked at one time when I was growing up, and I have saved lives. Other than when I was growing up, I've been in situations where I saved my own life twice. I have saved other people who were in accidents, and was able to give them help. Even though they thought they were fine, I could see they weren't, and left and got them to be still until EMTs got there. And boy, the EMTs were glad that I did that. I'm not talking about those situations. That is what everybody should do if they have the ability, if they have the knowledge, if they have the physical ability to handle it. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when ego runs amok. And people who grew up in abusive households often have egos that have run amok, especially if they were the ones that jumped in and solved things. And that, putting out that kind of energy, and having that kind of focus can hurt your health and can keep you from growing in other areas. And that's what I found. I had not grown emotionally, spiritually, and in other ways. And when I started getting these hints, like Angela from that teacher, Angela, why didn't you ask me? I would have helped. And the psychologist that I talked to for a year, once a week, who, when our first meeting, she says, how long do you think you may need to be, having these talk sessions before your problem is solved? I said 3 weeks. She was putting something up on a shelf when she asked us. She stopped dead and she turned and looked at me. She goes, 3 weeks? I said, yeah, 3 weeks. I already know what I need to do. I just need to find out how to do it. And once I do it, solved. And she, bless her heart, she was really good. She says, well, Angela, in the psychology, we have an old saying. I said, oh, what's that? And she said, it takes as long as it takes. I said, yeah, well, it'll take 3 weeks. I still laugh about that. That is just too funny. Well, it didn't take 3 weeks. It took a year at first. It took a year, and then I said, okay, I've figured some things out now. Now I need to go home and practice those, which I had been practicing as I learned them. But I said, now I need to figure out with this new method of operating in my personal life, I need to now see where I'm lacking, and then I'll get back with you and we'll address it. Well, it was 2 years later. I said, okay, I think I know what I need to do. And I called her. Well, she had moved. Oh, she said, Angela, I'm so sorry. Now, see, nowadays, if we had like Zoom things and that sort of thing like we do now, oh, she and I could have still been doing it, and it would have been great. She was really, really very good. So she sent me on to somebody who she trusted very, very much, and that worked fine. And there was about it was about a year with that, and then another break, and then another year, and then a break. And I haven't had to go back because I'm now, I think, like a lot of people who have a normal childhood to a certain degree, that I'm going to say that sentence again. To a certain degree, I'm like children who've had a normal childhood. I'm practicing these things in my daily life. I don't need to be married again because I don't want to be dealing with somebody else's problems. People have a lot of problems, and I was married to a man for 32 years with a lot of problems that I'm not going to go into here. And I did not want to address them, wanted to blame others for it. And we were not alike in that manner at all. At the same time, I had to learn that it was not my responsibility to solve his problem, because growing up the way I did, everybody was like, well, Angela, it's up to you to solve it. You know, we look to you, blah, blah, blah. I married the same type of man who looked to me as the source of the problem on the one hand, and that it was me that had to change so he wouldn't have the problem. I'm not going through that again. I was married for 32 years, don't need it. So now that I've been doing all of this, you know, I divorced him when I was 52, and my next learning process, if you will, was to find out how I got to where I was in my life, why I got there so late, took so long. So I was identifying the problems to my growth. What was my issue? Was what I was doing really a problem, or was I just all emotional and being girly and thinking something was a problem? And this was spiritual stuff, relationship stuff. It's very complicated, and yet there came a point one night where I was absolutely so wound up that I couldn't do. I said, I can't do this on my own. I cannot do this on my own. I don't know what to do, and yet I have to handle this thing. And I said a prayer silently in my own head so that Satan would not hear. But I can tell him, he can hear it now if he wants to, as to what that prayer was. That prayer was is that, please take me now because I can't handle this on my own. And I don't want to live. Not if it's like this. Not if it's like this. No. And I no sooner said amen than this peace just, it was a physical thing. This peace just came over me. And I heard, stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah, which is God's name. Stand still and see the salvation. The Israelites as a nation were told to stand still and see the salvation of Jehovah when they were overwhelmed and couldn't deal with the armies that were coming at them. He said, just stand up on the hill, stand still, see my salvation. So I said that prayer. I was ready to have a heart attack. I was ready to just lay there and die. I couldn't take it anymore. But I said that prayer. That was personal to me, of course. You know, everybody's going to say a different prayer based on their thing. And that peace, I'm not kidding you. This complete relaxing peace just came over me in those words, stand still. And I thought, my gosh, I went and wrote those words down, even though I was familiar with them in the Bible, but I went and wrote those words down and I put it on my fridge. Stand still. Hush. Listen. I was so busy trying to figure out how to fix myself, you see, but I was missing all the help God was sending my way. And he knew me. He knows me better than I know me. His eye's been on me since I was born. I just didn't know it. So we have problems, we have challenges, and we have opportunities. And underneath all of that, if we have God as our help, and we can recognize it, sometimes we have to hit the bottom of the barrel emotionally, you know what I mean? Before we recognize God has sent some help. You know, He's probably sent help to me in the past, but I was so busy fixing it myself that I missed it. I tell you what. Oh gosh, I tell you. People are funny. They are. Well, I am going to say goodbye. It has been gosh, this ended up being 54 minutes, a lot longer than I was planning it, but hey, I had to say what I had to say. Goodbye, y'all. We'll see you later.